everyone, and welcome to another little episode of Dannphan's Advice. Today we're kind of continuing a topic that I briefly touched upon yesterday about triggering emotions in your audience. Now, like I said in yesterday's video, a lot of people who watch movies or read a story, if they have some sort of emotional reaction to it, they may feel as though it was a good story just because it made them feel something. Now, I won't deny that we do go to see movies and we do go reading stories to feel something. If we felt nothing, then that definitely means that the writer did something wrong. Or maybe just that that story did not connect to us on an emotional level. But there are pretty basic tricks that writers use to try to provoke a reaction in the audience, just so they feel something and in turn believe that the story is a lot better than it actually is. I like to refer to these as little writing tricks or cheap tricks that writers will throw in there, and a lot of people might refer to them as cliches in some manner. It does definitely get tropish when you see the same trick used over and over to try to get the audience to feel something, and over time people become a little bit more numb to it. So what's an example of this? Well, the classic love story where, the girl secretly has something wrong with her. She secretly has brain cancer. She's gonna die soon. Then it's so sad because the two people who love each other will be split up, and they'll have to watch their loved ones die, and it's very sad to watch your loved ones die, isn't it? Of course it's sad to watch your loved ones die. It's sad in real life. It triggers an emotion in anyone who has lost a loved one or is scared of losing a loved one. Play a little piano music with some violin in the background and have someone slowly closing their eyes as like someone else is crying over their body. It's sad to anyone. Same thing goes with dog movies. People love dogs. So of course, if a cute puppy dies in a movie, of course it'll make people sad. But does that make it a good movie? I feel like I see it very often in stories where people will rely on these like really cheap tricks to get an emotional response out of their audience without putting as much thought into the story itself. Maybe this is a form of laziness, or maybe they're just not very confident in their writing abilities. Some of you might already know this, but I typically don't watch horror movies or any scary movies because of this exact reason, because I'm sick of seeing the same old tropes trying to get the scared reaction out of the audience, but not as much attention or detail put into the story itself. Now, I do understand you want the audience to feel scared. That's the purpose of a scary movie, but does that mean that you don't have to also put effort into the story? Does that mean that you get to design these stupid characters who will just, Let me tell you something. I saw this one scary movie. I couldn't watch it all the way through because I was just disgusted by like the silliness of this one scene. So basically there's a family, they were having a party or something, and now they're being trapped in the house by some psycho person who's setting up traps around the house. And this stupid girl, she's like, I want to run out of the house, I want to be the hero, and I want to run out and I want to go get help. And they're like, no. And she responds to that by having a tantrum. Now keep in mind, this was an adult woman having a tantrum because they wouldn't let her risk her life to go get help. Because they didn't want her to die, she had a tantrum. She started crying. She's like, you don't let me do anything. I swear to God, that's a real line. That's a real line that somebody said. And sure enough, they give in to her childish tantrum and let her run out the door immediately. She gets clipped by a wire and dies. I had to stop watching because I was just so mad. Why did they let her do that? Why was she upset that they didn't want her to do that? And at that point, I feel like I'm looking at the writer. I'm not looking at the characters anymore. Because I realized the reason why they had that scene in there is because the writer wanted to make a little scary, spooky scene. They wanted the enemy to seem a lot more competent, a lot more clever than the people inside the house. Like, ooh, he's so scary, he's so smart, he set up this trap. So in order to show how scary and what a genius this villain is, they made the characters super stupid. And that's just not believable to me. That this adult woman would throw a tantrum and they would just give in and let her kill herself. I don't know the name of the movie. If any of you have seen this movie, please tell me in the comments. I'm considering going back and watching the thing in its entirety just to see I bet the entire family died. I mean, there's no way if they're that stupid, I would not believe it if they survived. But like I said, this story, it's not written well. And there are a lot of other scary movies that I've had like the same experience where the story is just not very well written, but it's definitely spooky. You know, it definitely has all the spooky elements there and a lot of emphasis on the spooky elements, but the characters are stupid. The motivation is questionable, to say the least. The writing, it just makes no sense. Characters do something that makes no sense. And as far as scaring the audience goes, there are these very basic tricks that you'll see in almost every horror movie, specifically designed to deliberately make you uncomfortable, to make you scared. Obviously, the music plays a good part. The background audio plays a good part in making you scared. There have been entire documentaries talking about the music. For some movies, they mix this specific audio that naturally makes people in the audience scared. It's like the sound of bees buzzing or the sound of pigs being slaughtered, and they mix that audio together and they just have it be constant background noise. But focusing on just the writing tricks itself, you'll notice there's almost always some kind of jump scare. Jump scares are like the cheapest way to get the audience members to jump up and be scared, even if it's just momentarily. You'll have the villain be way more in control of the situation because everyone's scared when they feel like a situation is out of their control. So regardless of whether or not it makes sense, the villain is usually in full control of the movie. And then you have gross stuff. Oh, the gross stuff. I'm looking at you, human centipede. Yeah, who would have thought if you zoomed in on somebody gouging out somebody else's eyes that would make the audience scared and uncomfortable? Of course it would! That's very basic. That would make anyone uncomfortable. That would make anyone go ooh and look away. Like the first Evil Dead movie, most of the scenes were just focused on like doing gross things. Sure, you provoked the response, but did you tell a good story? If I just randomly throw a jump scare at you, is this video a better video because I provoked a response? Is this now a good video on YouTube because I made you scared for a second? The emotional response and the story should go hand in hand. They should prop each other up, not just focus on one and then, oh, the other one doesn't matter. Story doesn't matter, just focus on making the people feel something. Sure, you should make the people feel something, but also ask yourselves these questions. Does the universe have consistent logic? What are the motivations of the characters and do they make sense? Do the characters have interesting personalities that are believable? Do you root for the main characters? And if so, why do you root for them? Anyone can make a sad dog movie sad. Anyone can make a scary movie scary just by using these cheap tropes, these writing tricks that naturally provoke responses. But a really good story will have you connect with the characters themselves and feel their emotions through them, through the situations that they find themselves in. Now, sticking to the topic of deliberate discomfort in the audience. This is something that I've tried to explain to other people before. Adam was writing this one book and I was reading through it, and there was this one character that he had that I tried to tell him, like, it's just too much for me. I just feel too uncomfortable reading this. And, you know, his response was, of course, that's the point. But here I am trying to explain to him that yes, that's the intention, but I don't want to read it anymore. And this is all part of the reason why I also don't really find myself drawn to scary movies, because it's all about the discomfort. There's so much emphasis on this part and so little emphasis on the other part. But I do think that writers need to be more clever about how they use discomfort because it can scare people away. Or on the flip side, it can make people numb to the shock value of this discomfort. Everyone knows that if you do like 5 jump scares in a row, people, they're not going to react to it anymore because you can't just keep on doing them side by side. You have to displace them cleverly. And like I talked about in the last video, you also have to be more clever about how you use shock value in the sense that you could scare people away if it crosses a line or if it just lasts too long. I mean, sure, you achieved the response that you wanted, but you also lost readers. You also lost an audience by doing so. So there is a balancing act. My main advice when it comes to these types of tricks that trigger an emotional response is just to put more emphasis on the story, put more emphasis on the characters. If you really want to use those same tropes, the same idea to get across an emotional response in your audience, I'm not saying you can't do that. You can write whatever story you want, and it can be good no matter what material you have in it. But I will say, the more that you rely on these writing tricks, the more that you rely on this emotional response from the audience, the higher chance that your story itself will be written poorly. And I would encourage more writers to try to make stories without using tropes, just to push themselves creatively and become more confident in your own abilities rather than what other people have done and what other people say that you should do. But anyway, that's my advice for the day. If you have your own thoughts or advice that you'd like to add to this topic, definitely comment down below. If you know the name of that movie, definitely comment down below. I'm sure that somebody is gonna know it. Somebody out there. I know a lot of you read horror. You're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah. And if you enjoyed or found this advice at all helpful, be sure to like the video and sub if you'd like to see more, of course. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!
Program restart.